Hi everyone, welcome to the Codersarts YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be learning about file storage methods, why it's crucial for your application, and why you have to be more focused when you're deciding where to store your files. Okay, so let's get started. Now, what will be the today's agenda? So the main key point will be why file storage is a crucial design decision that affects your performance, scalability, backup, and security. Like how you're storing your files, which method you're choosing. So we'll be looking basically these three things: server file storage methods, like how we store file on server. I will be also giving a demo like how you can store a file on servers. The second thing will be storing files on the database, and the third will be a cloud storage or CDN solution. So we have already built a video on cloud storage. Basically, we were using AWS for storing files. So if you want to check out that, the links will be available in the description box. So these were the three methods that today we'll be exploring of storing different files on different places. So let's see the first topic, which is storing files on the server. So what are the benefits and what are the drawbacks that we can face while storing files on the server, and whom should adopt or go with this method? Okay. So the first benefits that you can see over here is files are immediately available on the server with low latency. So as we are storing the file on the server, we are not storing it on the database or uh, CDN provider. Then whenever user sends any file, it's just get stored in the server, and whenever user makes a request, it directly fetches the file from the server and render it or show it to the user. So there is a very low latency on serving the file. Do not bloat your primary application database. So as we are not storing the files in the database, so our database is clean with any files, like because we are storing it on the server. No additional network calls like with S3 or remote storage. So as we were storing file on the server, there is no extra API calls happening to fetch those particular file. No need for SDK or authentication system for file retrieval. Uh, Whenever we make any request to CDN provider to send any files, so there is a authentication in between to allow only a certain people to access those files. But with this case, there is no authentication, like there is no pre-built authentication. You can make your own, like you can write your own custom logic to implement the authentication, but there is no pre-built authentication system or anything like that. Ideal for prototyping or early stage startup where time to market is crucial. So yeah, this is very important thing. So if you are thinking of building a product from like in a very short span of time, like you don't have too much time to launch it into the market, then you can go ahead with this method, as uh, it's a very you can say easy method to get started with the things. Now, what are the drawbacks? So the major drawback is requires managing separate backups, both for files and database metadata. So you can think of it like we were managing database differently and files differently. So it requires a separate backup for all of these two files. Difficult to scale when multiple app instances are running, obviously, because when we have a lot of files available in our server, then uh, scaling it becomes very challenging. Unless backups are automated, a server crash equals to data loss. That's the most important thing. So you always have to keep this thing in your mind of taking the backup of all the files that were stored in the server, because a server crash make your data loss, like whole of your data loss. Serverless function like AWS Lambda or Vercel functions do not offer persistent storage. So it's not ideal to like if you are storing all of your files in the server, then it's not a viable method. It's not recommended to go with the serverless function, because when the server get down, because if the request is coming, then the server will up. Otherwise, if the server is down, like if there's no request coming, then your server will be shut down, and if that happens, your file is just vanished. Now, if stored under a web root, file can directly access unless you implement access control or keep them outside the public directory. So you can think of it like in this way. So it's a security thing. If you have not implemented proper security measure to access those files, then anyone can access those files. So for that also you have to keep this thing in mind while storing the files, like who should have the access of these files and who should be restrained from accessing these files. So these were some of the methods that you can, like, these were the certain benefits or drawbacks that you can think of while implementing this method in your project. I'll be also showcasing one demo of this thing, like how you can store all of your files in your server. So be with me. We'll be also seeing a demo for this one. Now let's move on to the next section, which is storing in the database. When we were storing file in the database, there are certain benefits and drawbacks that we have to keep in mind. So the first benefit that we see is that images and metadata are stored in one centralized location. So in the database, we were storing all of our images, videos, or whatever we were going to store along with the data. So it create a consistency. As the second point also says, ensure consistency. Neither the file and data are, either the file and data are both saved or neither. Like if we have made a query to save certain thing in the database, then if we are sending both the data and the file, then either both will be saved or neither will be saved. Single backup contain both data and images or files. So you can think of it like when we were creating a backup of our database, then both our database along with the files or like whatever information or whatever files that we have stored, the backup will contain both of these things. Data level security ensure only authenticated access if query or stored procedures control it. Or you can think of it like, so whatever database level security that we have taken, that same security will be provided for the files that we were storing in the database, because both of these things were storing in the database. So they both will enjoy the same level of security. Now, what are the drawbacks? So there are certain drawbacks that we have to keep in mind when we are storing the files in the database. So the first will be large blob can slow down queries and increase latency. So you can think of it like when we were storing images or certain files in the database, it don't directly get into the database. It converted into a blob format, then it gets stored. So if it's a very big file, like suppose 10 MB or 20 MB, then it can be a very you can say, when we are querying that particular file, then it can increase the latency of our query and ultimately slow down, or like you can think of it, affect the performance of our application. The second point is increase load on the DB server, potentially reducing its caching effectiveness. So whenever we were storing certain large file like 10 MB, 20 MB of files, then we cache our database. So like we cache the thing so that whenever user makes a request to the server, that particular things can directly be served instead of, because we have cached those things, so that can be directly served to the user instead of directly fetching it from the server. But when we have larger files, then it might increase load on the server to cache all of those big files. The third point is storing image increase the database size significantly, which may impact backup time, storage cost, and recovery time objectives. So yeah, that's the main important point. So let's suppose you have a data of like 10,000 peoples, whereas which is taking over 10 MB of data storage in your database, whereas you have just a single image which is like high HD quality and taking 10 MB. So storing like a lot of things in the database or like larger files in the database can heavily impact your database size, which may affect your backup time, storage cost, like increase your storage cost, and also recovery time. So you also have to think about this thing when we're choosing storing in the database. The fourth point is serving image via dynamic query is typically slower than dedicated file server or CDN. So whenever we were serving images directly from the database, then it is considered slower as compared to serving file from the our server, or if we are choosing any CDN file, because it's get converted from blob to the file, or which can be showed to the user, so it takes time. So you can think of these points when we were choosing storage method as a DB. Okay, so now let's move on to the third topic, which is storing image on the CDN. So this is the most famous method that most companies or most startups preferred when they were managing or they were dealing with the file storage. But it also has certain drawbacks and benefits. So let's deep dive into those points, and let's see whether it's a viable solution for you or not. So the first thing is services like Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, or Azure Blob Storage are designed to scale with demand. Now you don't have, like when we are dealing with when we are using these cloud storage provider, then you don't have to think about scaling. Like these service provider give you services for auto scaling. Amazon S3 promises 99.999999% durability. So what I say, like it's a very durable thing. Like you can rely on AWS S3 for managing all of your files, and you don't have to worry about its durability. Pay as you go model offer reduce cost for large data sets. So this is most important thing. So you can think of it like you don't have to initially pay for, like let's say you are paying for 100 GB of storage or like 200 GB of storage. No, if you are storing only 1 GB of storage, then you only have to pay for that particular storage. Like you don't have to pay initially for certain storage, although you can opt for that as well. But uh, it offers pay as you go model, so it's very beneficial for early stage startup to choose that model, because in the initially starting, when they were initially starting, then they don't have a large amount of data, so they can opt for this model. Caching file load faster, reduce bandwidth load on origin. So this is also most important thing. Whenever the user makes a request, we fetch the file from the CDN and it serve it to the user. Now when we cache those things, it reduces bandwidth, loads the file to the user faster, and also uh, reduce load on the origin. Tools like Multer support direct upload to S3 like service. So we have a lot of libraries that can work with these cloud providers. So Multer is one of them. So if you are building a backend system with Node.js, then you can use Multer libraries. We also have certain libraries for Python and Java. So there are a lot of libraries that are available that can support cloud storage integration. Okay, let's now also see some drawbacks, because it don't only have benefits, it also have certain drawbacks. So switching provider can be challenging. Storage and aggressive costs may add up to heavily used. So you can think of it like, if you have chosen a service of Amazon S3, now you're thinking Amazon is not providing you more value, like Google will be providing more value, then switching between providers can be a tedious task for you. You must ensure that appropriate access control and encryption policies are in place. So yeah, that's also most important thing. Whenever we are allowing the access for certain files for viewing or reading or writing, then you also have to be more focused whom you are allowing, or like what permissions you have given for read and write access of certain files. The third point is integrating may require additional configuration and understanding of cloud API comparison to local. Or you can think of it like, initially when you are getting started with the AWS S3 or any service provider, then setting up of that thing can be challenging task, as you will see in my AWS S3 video which I have uploaded. In that, initially setting up the S3 is a tedious process. Like you have to know a lot of things, like what is IAM, what is root user, and how you can access the control and these kind of things. So initial setup can be a tedious task for a very beginner person, but if you have done that thing, then it's a very useful thing. Now you might say you are getting confused which service you should opt for, whether storing file on the server, database, or cloud storage, because I have told you the benefits and drawbacks of all of these things. So the main thing that I want to discuss over here is that it depends upon on your use case. So suppose, as I have mentioned earlier, if you're just getting started, you have very less time to set up the things, and you want to just getting started with the things, then you can opt for storing file on the server. But if you have a certain time, you can, and you also know configuration of AWS S3 or other cloud storage provider, then you can opt for that. So it's all depend upon the use case, and what suits for your company or what suits for your use case. So you can opt for that. But we have certain hybrid approach and best practices that I want to discuss with you. these were the certain points that you have to keep in mind when you are dealing with the file storage or anything like that. So the first thing is storing image or files metadata and file references like URLs in the database while keeping the actual file on the dedicated file storage or cloud storage. So you can think of it, my file is stored somewhere else, but I have just noted down the path of that particular file and storing that particular path in my database, so that whenever user makes any query, it also not hampering my database, because the file is not stored in my database, it's stored in the cloud storage provider, and I am just storing the path. So whenever user is making a request, I will make a query to fetch that particular file from that cloud storage provider and serve it to the user. So it will it's a very good practice and it's followed in the industry, so you can follow this thing. Now, using a caching layer, example Redis CDN caching to serve frequent access image quickly, it's also a very good practice. Suppose if your user is like they were not able, they cannot spend too much time for just an image to be get loaded. So if the particular image, like you can say website's logo or certain images that is very frequently viewed by the user, then you can cache those images so that these things don't get again and again fetched from the cloud storage. They can directly serve from the place where they have been cached and serve it to the user. The third point is leveraging libraries like Multer for Node.js to handle uploads and directly storing to AWS S3 or similar. So we have a lot of libraries that makes our work very easier when we are handling with file storage and these kind of things. So you can also leverage those things to make your things easier. So yeah, now you can choose any of your model, whichever suits for you. So if I give you one more example, suppose if you are building a e-commerce application, now in that you cannot store images in your database, you cannot store images in your server, because you might be having a lot of images, like thousands and thousands of images, so you cannot opt for those storing things on the server or database. You can the most viable or best solution for you will be to opt for cloud storage provider. So it depends upon the use case which serves better for you, so you can opt for that. Now let's watch a demo of how you can store your image on the server. It's a very useful thing. As I have mentioned earlier, if you're just getting started and you are have to serve the app in a very quick manner, then you can opt for this method. This is the prototype or the demo that that I was talking you about. So over here we will be storing images. We were storing images in the server. So if we just click on this particular box, currently we were just dealing with the images. You can also select any other file. So let's just select this particular image. You can see the preview over here. You can just click on upload, and as you can see, this image is being popped up over here. Okay, so these are the two same images. Let's just upload another one. Let's just choose this one, click on upload, and as you can see, this image is now popped up over here. You can either click on this view, you will be able to view that particular image. You can click on download and that particular image will be downloaded. So this is the prototype that we have built to store the images in the database. Now let's just see the code base, how it's being written over there, and whether our file is being stored in the server or not. So this is the code. As you can see, in the public /assets folder, we were having all of these images that we have seen over there. So as you can see, all of the images are coming over here as well. So now we were using TypeScript along with Express and Prisma as an ORM. So this is the code base. From the views, we were rendering our HTML code that you were seeing over there. This is the index file where we have written all the code related to serving of the file. So these are certain middlewares that we have written. This is to serve the files. This is to make a get request whenever someone requests of fetching a certain files. Then this is for rendering HTML, and this is to start the server. We have this route section where we were handling the route. This is for uploading the file, and if someone wants to view a particular image, then they can call this particular route. This is the middleware where we have written the upload logic. So as I was talking about the Multer, so we were also using Multer to upload the images, and it makes the process very smooth or easier to work with files. So we were also using multer. So this is the logic for the multer. It will take a lot of time for me to explain this thing. If you have any questions regarding this or the uses of anything like how we can use multer or anything like that, just let me know in the comment section. I will try to explain you that topic or make a dedicated video on that particular topic. After that, we have this controller section where we have three controllers. First one is to export or upload the file. So if I just show you, this is for uploading the file. We were taking the file in the body, then we were matching the things, what's the file name on these kind of thing, then we were just saving the file. After that, this is for getting all the files, and this is for getting a specific file based on the ID. So yeah, this is the overall code base that we have written to store the files in the server. As you can see, the files are also being saved over here. If I just show you once more, so I can just click on this. This time I can select this image. I can click on save. The image is being popped up over here, and if I just show you the thing from here, I will have to look for that. Yeah, so you can see this particular file is being saved over here as well. So we were saving the images on the server. That's all from my side. I hope you have understood, or I have make you understood like how file storage work differently when we were storing the file in the server, database, or cloud storage, and what are their use cases and which one you have to choose. So if you have any more questions or any doubt, just let me know in the comment section. I will try to answer all of those questions. And if you have any idea in your mind or any MVP that you want to convert into an actual product, or even if you want to develop an MVP, then you can visit our website www.codersart.com, or you can mail us on contact@codersart.com. We will help you out with development of your product, and we will also we can work with you as your technical partner. So if you have any queries regarding your product development or anything in general related to tech, then you can contact us. So that's all from my side. See you in the next video.